All right. Well, when I was back in the States, just 2 days left after this for work. When I was back in the States this last time, a friend of mine was telling me about the ghosts in his house. And I sat there and I listened to the stories, which were compelling. And I remembered when I used to tell stories about my sighting of Bigfoot. It was an experience that I had as a youth, probably 13 or 14, 14 probably, in the Angeles National Forest. And something passed by my tent in the middle of the night when I was camping, wilderness camping with a friend. He had another tent next to mine. And I saw the figure pass in the moonlight there, silhouetted by the moon behind. And my mind conspired to take a figure passing in front, which was shapeless and really formless. And I convinced myself, and even now it's even hard for me to convince myself away from it. I convinced myself that it was Bigfoot. And in the morning, I had a conversation with my friend. And now in hindsight, I can see how the two of us, we wanted to see Bigfoot. And with the two of us, we made our stories match up and tell the story that we saw Bigfoot. And we actually went back and told people we saw Bigfoot and brought in the Bigfoot Society. We took them hiking. A representative with a gun came out and we took them hiking up in the hills and showed them the spot. And he confirmed that it was indeed a Bigfoot sighting. I don't know how he confirmed it. Something about the way the sticks were broken or something. And I told that story for 2 decades. I told that story regularly. Even though my credulity had sharpened, had decreased, actually, the opposite. As I became a skeptic, I held on to my Bigfoot story for a long time, and it wasn't until I was well into manhood that I finally screwed up the manly courage to recognize that I was wrong, not just wrong, a liar. And now I don't tell that story. I tell the story the opposite. I use it as a cautionary tale for myself and others. And I lied. I made up a story, and I told it for a long time. And I probably somewhere in the Bigfoot archives of Southern California, there's a story of 2 boys in the mountains that saw Bigfoot. We didn't see Bigfoot. There's something passed in front of it. We wanted it to be Bigfoot. So anyway, as my friend was telling me about his haunted house, whenever people tell me about this kind of stuff, I always remember my own experience with that. How taking something with a little bit of stuff and a little bit of something strange and exploding it into something bigger. Now that doesn't mean I automatically discredit everything that people say along those lines, but I do take anecdotal evidence as just that, anecdotal, without any corroborative or backing or anything to back it up necessarily. So I'm very, very hesitant and cautious with it. And for the sake of we were just having pleasant company, so I didn't talk about it much. We just moved on, and he told me his ghost story, and I was thinking later about it, about why an example came into mind about why I would be so hesitant to believe that kind of stuff. And here's what I just kind of thought about. Imagine a flying suit, and there are 2 people that are going to tell you about their flying suit. Okay, the first one, and this relates to evidence, okay, and trustability. And the first person says, I watched a bird flying along, and I observed the flapping of the wings, and I saw, this is the experience, like seeing a ghost or something like that. And I saw this happen, and I've come up with an idea about how to make a suit that flies. I just kind of roughed it out, and here it is. This is my conclusion based on that. Oh, and by the way, my brother's cousin, wait a minute, that was my cousin too. My cousin watched a bird too, and came up with the same idea. So we have this suit, but it doesn't work. You can't just fly off the ground. You actually have to, you have to get a running start and jump off a building. You put it on and jump off a building. Yeah, but you'll fly because I observed something, and I'm pretty sure about what it means to the world about observing how a bird flies, versus another person who comes up to me and says, I have a flying suit too, second person, and says, no, I have my flying suit. I watched a bird flying, and I observed the flapping of the wings and then got some ideas. And I went ahead and created a model and tested it out. The first couple didn't work too well. Yeah, there were some problems with it, but I refined it and improved it. Seems to be working a little bit better. And then I went over to a friend that knows something about mechanical things and aerodynamics a little bit, and I asked them to replicate what I did. And they did, and we actually found some more problems. But between the two of us, our two experiments that worked it out, and then we took it to a third friend, and they tested our idea. And hey, it looks like between the three of us, it was pretty good. We got some things. We're trying to find the faults, but it seems to be none of us have tested it yet. But it seems to be that we've got the idea down from what we observed, and then tested, and then measured and created something. Now, the thought that was in my mind was, which of those two suits? You're standing at the top of the building, and you've got the guy that has the anecdotal inspiration through observing birds and coming up with a quick conclusion about how birds fly, and has a suit to prove it, versus somebody who has watched the same bit of evidence and tried to watch the same phenomenon, and then tried to develop a test and something to refine the observation into sound conclusion, and then has developed a flying suit. Which of those two suits would you be willing to strap on and jump off the building on? Now, I wouldn't do either, but of the two, I wouldn't want to put on the guy that just had the idea and flew into conclusion from there. And that is kind of what people who base, including myself, people who base their conclusions on little bits of experience are essentially doing. When I made my conclusion that Bigfoot existed in the Angeles National Forest because I had seen something cross in front of the shadow, and the only other reinforcing evidence was a friend of mine who was probably a bit cajoled by my own enthusiasm to see Bigfoot into concluding the same. The world is full of that kind of stuff, and I'm going to try to train myself at 50. I haven't got much time left, but I'm going to try to train myself to be more careful about the conclusions that I make, or the conclusions that I agree to that others have made, and considering how they got there. Now there's somebody walking right behind me, a shadow behind me. Is it a real person? Is it not? That's a little evidentiary proof. It is a real person. The proof is in observation and test and replication and determination. Hey, lo and behold, the scientific method. Okay, time to sign off. Take care. Bye-bye.